Hi there. This video is for targeted individuals or non-consensual human experimentees, whichever one you identify with. I identify with both. Many of you out there have done a lot of important work showing the history of this kind of stuff, the technological weapons that are used, gang stalking. You've shown videos that show obvious abuse by proxy. And that stuff has helped me to see that this is actually real. This is not my imagination, and it's not the imagination of other TIs. However, I want to mention, regardless of the methods used to attack you, whether technological, as in electromagnetic weapons or microwave radiation or directed energy weapons, or whether it's physical, such as directed conversation, workplace mobbing, mistreatment from medical professionals or legal professionals, or anyone in authority, or even if it's done on metaphysical levels, such as occult curses, black magic, or voodoo, it is all done with a specific intent in mind. And you probably know that already, but I want to direct you to a website, www.masaru-emoto.net. And this website is about Masaru Emoto's studies in freezing water. And he would take, for example, he would take a vial of water and take the word love to it, and take another vial of water and take the word hate to it, and freeze these vials of water. When the water was frozen, the water that was frozen with the word love attached to it froze in a very beautiful crystalline pattern that looked kind of like a snowflake. And the water that was frozen with the word hate attached to it ended up looking very chaotic and not, not very uniform, wasn't symmetrical, that kind of thing. This effect is shown in the human body. I have noticed it in my own life. As many of you know, I grew up with a lot of negative programming, trauma, and abuse, and I don't need to mention that here. It's in some of my other videos. And but one thing I haven't mentioned is that as I was growing up, I wasn't very pretty, right? But once I got out of the house and was away from the negative programming and I found my own niche, so to speak, I became an artist. I was, given scholarships and awards for my art. I had talent and technical ability, and I noticed that my physical appearance actually got better. I actually started to look a bit prettier. And, I find that very interesting when I consider the studies that Masaru Emoto did about freezing water, considering that the human body is made up of mostly water. And so in looking back on that, I have to consider what these perpetrators are doing against targeted individuals. And considering that many targeted individuals were born into this or raised in it, such as you might have been adopted, grown up in foster care, grew up in an orphanage, or you're from some other compromised group where maybe you didn't grow up with your natural family. And if they are not blood related, blood is thicker than water, and they have a tendency to mistreat the one that isn't related by blood to them. And that could be part of what happened to me. I don't know. I did find implants in 2008, and that does lead me to believe that I'm part of some experiment. Maybe they knew about this whole water thing and what happens to water when it's exposed to negative energy, and what happens to it when it's exposed to positive energy. And my life is a great example of that. So if you're a targeted individual, I want to encourage you to send positive vibes to other targeted individuals, because I feel that may be the only way that we're going to survive this. Because the more negative energy that they send at us, the more chaotic our brain patterns get, and the more chaotic our bodies get, because we are made up of mostly water. And that's why so many targeted individuals display such a myriad of symptoms, such as headaches, getting sick a lot with the flu or colds, rash on your body, all over itching, burning sensations. There's so many different physical manifestations of disease, but what causes disease is all the negative energy that's being poured into us. And there's no good reason to do that to a human being. And I've noticed that other targeted individuals have expressed that whenever they get close to making something for themselves, they get sabotaged. And that's why I feel that this is done on possibly both physical and metaphysical levels, and that it's done since birth. Because it does seem like we're set up at birth to have a life where we get close to achieving something for ourselves and we get sabotaged. And in my case, my art career was sabotaged by a woman with the last name of Skinner, and my initials happen to spell cat, and so the phrase skin the cat comes to mind, and that leads me to believe that that's not an accident. You know, it's just too coincidental. It's too coincidental. And I remember hearing an author, a most noted author, say that a coincidence is just, the incidence of two lines meeting each other, like in an angle, or maybe it's the incidence of two angles meeting each other, or something like that. So this stuff is happening on such a huge level, and it's happening from so many different perspectives. They come at you at every angle. So that's why I encourage targeted individuals to support each other. A lot of us probably come off as sounding a little bit crazy because we are being attacked with all this negative energy. And I want to say a big thank you to those of you who have sent supportive energy toward me, supportive messages. I really appreciate it. And, God love you, and I hope God will love me someday. Right now, I don't feel like that's the case, but I do feel like this has been going on my whole life. And okay, so I want to get to some of the excuses that perps use on targeted individuals. They say that their target is a deviant or a bad person, evil, useless, a bum, a loser, that the target may have done some bad things in their life. But most targeted individuals that I have met are genuinely good people. They might have done some bad things in their life, but they probably wouldn't have done those things if they weren't negatively programmed. So that's something for you perps to consider if you're really honest, but I doubt it. I think these are just excuses to continue to throw negative energy at the target and make them feel bad and guilty, and these are all negative emotions. All right, and what it ultimately boils down to is that the perpetrators are blaming the victim of negative programming. And that means that their accusations are baseless or half-truths at best. It's very possible that the perpetrators don't know the whole truth, that they've only been given, some of the truth, outright lies, whatever to justify them targeting the victim. There's no justification for it, because if the perps don't know the whole story, then they are not doing anything that is just or decent, and they're certainly not helping humanity by targeting people who are genuinely good in their heart. Anybody who's willing to to consciously do this, like when somebody uses directed conversation on you, you know that they're conscious of what they're doing. And if they don't know the whole story, then they have no right to do that, and any of their negative energy needs to be deflected back onto them. At first, I tried sending love and forgiveness to these people. It didn't work. It didn't work at all. In fact, my targeting became worse and worse as time went on, no matter how much love and healing and forgiveness I sent to these people. So now I feel that I need to deflect their negativity back onto them, send positives to other TIs, and hopefully I will get positive back from other TIs, because if you're a targeted individual and you find yourself being handled by the people around you, chances are you're not getting any love from those people. They don't deserve your love if they're not giving you love. So, send your love to the right place. Send it to other targeted individuals. And I know there's some question about who is a targeted individual and who isn't, because there are imposters, I guess, people masquerading as targeted individuals online. Well, one way that I've been able to tell is, for example, if some perpetrator puts up a video about a targeted individual and doesn't allow the targeted individual to defend themselves, which is really, disgusting, and it's happening on so many levels. I feel that way myself. That's one great example. Another example is if a targeted individual comes out about their experiences, whether they've been a victim of the Monarch program, MK Ultra, if they found implants in their head, and they are totally attacked by people who totally deny what they're saying. And a lot of the times the perps will use words such as idiot, moron, ignorant, loser, whatever, then you know who the perp is and you know who the target is. And like I said, most targets, if they have done bad things in their lives, chances are they were negatively programmed, and that puts the onus back on the programmers. I've heard perpetrators say that targeted individuals need to take responsibility and accountability in their lives. Well, the minute that somebody is mind controlled, and especially if they have implants in their head, accountability has kind of been removed from the targeted individual in that case. So that has to be considered. All right, negative programming can take many forms. Language is definitely a form of negative programming when you consider how many words have root words in them, such as ow, ick, ill, mar, or even the word war in them. All right, and I've talked about that in my symbolism in language and numbers video. Movies, victim mentality coming from Disney princess movies, I think I mentioned, where somebody who's already had trauma, who's already been stuck in a victim role throughout their infancy even, that programming becomes reinforced through these Disney princess films when the little girl identifies with the princess who's supposed to be rescued by a dashing prince, right? In a lot of cases that's maybe not so wicked or evil, but when somebody has suffered trauma in their life and they're more open to that kind of programming, it becomes a little bit more insidious now, doesn't it? All right, and of course there's verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, negative reinforcement. All that stuff is negative programming, and it has to be considered when you are considering, if you're a perpetrator and you are considering targeting an individual, you better consider where they're coming from. Have they been raised in a situation that negatively programmed them? Then it's not their fault. Then them being negative or sad or depressed or lonely or apathetic, it's been programmed into them, and you can't blame them, period. Ultimately, the handlers, the programmers, and the puppet masters at the most high levels need to be blamed because it's their responsibility. They need to take accountability for what they've been doing on physical and metaphysical levels. So if you're a TI, you might have noticed those patterns in your life. You might have noticed them throughout your life, but maybe you didn't become conscious of it until more recently. Another example of the way I see the parallels in Emoto's studies on freezing water and my own life is that when the second career that I had got sabotaged, I went really quick from looking pretty good to aging about 10 years in about 1 year's time. Now, when the targeting first became overt to me, I tried really hard to maintain a positive attitude and send love and healing to everyone. And over a period of time, things got really bad for me. And for example, I was in a public place once and I heard a voice say, "Gosh, I feel bad about this one." And then I felt the sensation of a hot poker going through my back into my chest wall, into my chest cavity, into my lung. And after that, my breathing got worse. The negative energy continued and got escalated. I've been called a loser, a bum, a thief, a cheat. I mean, all these things, whether they're true or not. Some are partly true, some are true because of my negative programming, and some are flat out lies. I've been called a racist. I've been called a child molester. I've never molested a child. I mean, this is really ridiculous, but they do it because they know that it evokes a response, a negative response, and they know it makes you feel bad, even if it's not true. And that's where that negativity, the negative effect on water, the human body, mostly water, has an effect on your mind and your body. And that's why it gets so difficult for TIs to discuss what's happening to them in any coherent form a lot of times. So, keep that in mind. I think it's also maybe a cause of dyslexia to a degree. I know that I was never dyslexic, but I have exhibited more symptoms of dyslexia since this started happening, since the targeting became overt, meaning since I got the voice to skull and the directed conversation and the stalking by proxy and all of that. So, you guys send yourselves love, send other TIs love, and deflect the negative energy being sent to you from wherever it's coming back to where it's coming from, because they need to experience what they're doing to other people because it's wrong. All right. Take care, guys. Peace.